like having, and after she left, I think, I'm not happy with this. So, yeah, so I fixed it all up.
I hope not.
And then when push came to shove and I had too much stuff, it ended up, it's all the same again.
Well.
Plus
We do that to ourselves.
Plus I have bookshelves of Basil readers that I brought home from school and
I'm Cathy, and
I'm Drew.
we actually met at an antique bottle show. We've both been bottle collectors for years, but then Drew introduced me to a new way of finding bottles in the river. And we joined OARS, the Organization for the Assabet River, and for almost 15 years we've been cleaning the river and rescuing artifacts. It's been incredible. We had no idea when we started out that we were going to end up practically living in a museum now. And we've written a book, and in the book is, I would have to say, probably the very best of the finds. Most of the stuff in the river really is trash. So these items are the exception to the rule. And if you get a chance later, if you haven't already seen the items in the cabinet there, take a look after the digital show. So all right, first we're going to start showing you what we do for the cleanup. Okay, here's a picture in Hudson. This was this particular area before the cleanup. Notice there are a lot of bottles. Bottles being glass survived in the river, whereas a lot of other materials wouldn't last in the water for as long as the glass. But most of this is trash. Here's another view. And then this is after that whole bank. That's a view from the street. It's a little far away, but that whole bank is all clean. It's all clean. Now here's an example of how trash items can get sort of trapped in the river. There's a tree down by that rock. And if that tree doesn't get cleared, all kinds of things can collect. So there are places in the river, whether it's bends in the river or places where trash collects, and that's where we do our cleanups, and that's what we're going to look at tonight. And unfortunately, there's new trash too. People do still litter. There's Drew out there with the handy grabber tool. You know, people ask us, they say, do you dig? Do you dredge? Do you dive? None of that is necessary because we just wait for low water, get our grabber tool, and either from the kayak or on foot, we just grab things out of the river.
It's easier on foot. The kayak drifts. Try to pick stuff up. Typically where we go is only about as deep as shown in this picture.
Okay, now that's on a clear day, clear water, sunshine. That's a jug in the river. So when visibility is good, I mean, you can just see this stuff. This was a good day. This was a spot that was being cleaned for the first time. And what we would do is all the bottles that are in the bucket, those are the trash items. And the ones around the bucket were our keepers that day. And there's Drew with some tires. This is on one of the official cleanup days.
It's the third Saturday in September that OARS sets up the cleanup, and we all meet at Dairy Joy, and they meet elsewhere along the Assabet and the Sudbury rivers and the Concord now also. And we lead a team, and the towns also participate. We'll bring the tires out to the road and bags of trash, and then the town will come by with heavy machinery, front end loaders and dump trucks, haul it away and dispose of it properly.
But on those official cleanup days, everything goes. So it's kind of our job to go to these spots ahead of time and rescue anything good before trash day. Yes, that would definitely be trash. Again, that's cleanup day. And that's just from about 2 hours on a cleanup day.
This is actually in Hudson on Wheeler Road.
And that's only one site, so there would be many teams at many different sites that day, and the trucks will come by and pick up from the different locations.
So the landowner here gave us permission to use his property, and he does every year to access the river, to do the cleanup. This is elsewhere in Hudson. This is the end of Winter Street. And another landowner helps us. He actually has a tractor and hauls material for us.
Oh, now we have to go to the video.
Hi, I'm Drew,
And I'm Cathy.
and we're picking our Assabet.
Little plastic ducky.
Now, this is a day we're out just for fun.
Here we come, ducky.
We're in a tandem kayak.
Kathy's the
Here we
little
are.
one.
Yay. Ducky. Oh, look at this. Train car. It's cute. I think it's plastic though.
Actually rubber.
Yay. Yeah. Yay, train.
And that one is actually in the case here tonight.
Beautiful visibility here. I think I might have something. Looks like a Borelli's. Yeah,
That's an orange drink bottle from the 1920s.
yes. That's a keeper.
So do they work their way out of the sand?
It's a mixture. You can find new bottles right next to old bottles.
Everything gets stirred up together in the river, especially when we have storms and the river rises and the current picks up.
Look good?
We check the same spots frequently, and there's always something there that we didn't see before.
That is like the biggest leech thing I've seen in here yet.
On the bottle.
Ew. Drew found a bottle.
The hartshorn, it's got a big chunk in it.
A hartshorn with a big chunk out of it. I guess we won't be taking that one. Oh well,
It's a very common bottle. If it was something rare, we'd take it anyway.
I think I see something interesting here. Wow. Wow, no embossing. Oh, some fancy stuff around the edge. Nice, it's almost a whiskey or a perfume. Machine made. I'm gonna keep it anyway.
So machine made would be about 1910 or later. That's
Might
just
have
clear.
something here. Let's see. Oh, it's got a hole in it. Might have to keep it anyway. GF North or Horse Druggist, corner of Main and Broad Streets, Hudson, Mass.
That would be from about 1890.
Little schoolhouse egg.
Yay!
Schoolhouse
That's a
Inc.
nice little find. Is it good?
Little chippy on it,
Eh,
but I'll keep it.
yep,
Think well.
yay. Inkwell.
It's called a Schoolhouse Inc. because of the shape.
Got another find here, not a bottle, but toy gun.
Just a toy.
We never found any real guns, just toys.
Not in the river, anyway. I found a real one digging in the woods once, years ago.
Drew's got a milk bottle.
This is all one afternoon, by the way, this video clip.
Holder.
Oh, there's a surprise HS holder. Only the 20 millionth holder milk bottle we found.
The most common bottle from Hudson.
Yep.
Holder milk bottle.
Drew's got another ink. Wow, and this isn't even the ink spot. It's not even the ink spot. Oh, wow. Bring that up here. Wow,
This turned out to be a good one.
You go home now.
wow. We can go home now, but we won't. Wow, right up high.
I've got the camera on my head, so.
Wow, Haley. Haley Ink Company. Made in USA, New York. Wow. Nice.
Yay, we could go home.
And that's an unlisted ink.
Yay.
That's an unlisted ink. It's not in any of the antique ink bottle
Let's
books
see what this
that
one
we have.
is. Oh. Oh, screw top whites. Not old enough for what we want. We'll leave that for the cleanup. Okay, I've got something down here. I don't know if it's going to be whole. Let's find out. See if I can pry it up with my toe.
That water was a little deeper than it looks. I couldn't quite reach.
Yeah, might have to get around this one first.
I'm not putting my head under that water.
I'm going to clear some of the sand away from the sides with my boot. Don't want to break anything, just in case. See if I can reach it.
This was one of those items that I didn't know how old it was until I got home and researched it.
Can't quite reach it. I need Drew's long monkey arms. Here it comes. Right here, the white thing.
Oh yeah, he'll
Yeah,
make this
and the
look
handle is
easy.
straight up, I believe. I'll back up a little bit.
It was about half exposed and half
Try not to
buried
fall over.
in the sand. Here it comes.
Wow. We'll take it. Any mark on the base?
No.
Oh, no mark on the base. Well, it might have something there. I'll have to look at that later. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's got a little mark there. I'll have to look at it later.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Top shelf.
Okay.
And there's a similar one in the cabinet out there.
And that's how old it turned out to be when I looked up the mark and the shape.
I thought I saw a marble here somewhere. Now I have to find it again.
I love finding marbles in the river.
Let's see.
I have
Here we
hundreds.
go. Well, I guess I'll have to find it again. There it is. There's the marble. Pretty sure it's a marble. Hmm.
Should have had my marble scoop. There it goes.
There they dropped it again. There it is. No.
I actually have a marble scoop now that I use to scoop them up. It's a lot easier.
I need the scoop.
Yep, here comes the scoop.
Yay, there it is.
There it is.
What do we got?
Stove polish, awesome.
Yay.
Green Label Stove Polish Company, Somerville, Mass.
Let's see. Yay, look at that. Somerville, Mass.
That's
Nice.
when people had black cast iron stoves and they polished them. It's like a blacking.
Other finds from that day. Okay, that's our book. All right, we'll go back to the slideshow now.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay. Now, people ask about the picture on the cover of our book. I did not dress for these shots. We weren't trying to look like Bonnie and Clyde. It's just that those were the clothes I wore that day, and those were the items that were found. The next picture is the one from the cover. That was spontaneous. And the gun is a toy.
But how long does that take between slides from when it was really in bad shape?
It's hard to say because actually it's an ongoing process, because if we were to go there now after all this rain, there'll actually be more to pick up now. Yeah, so it's an ongoing process. Okay, this was an exceptional day. This was at that new spot that hadn't been cleaned. The bottles do not come out of the river clean. They have this scum layer, which I now use gloves when I clean the bottles. And we'll show you some before and after. This is what they look like before. And this is after. They clean up quite nicely. And I repurpose things, so that salt shaker in the middle is now a stick pin holder. And marmalade jar is a pencil holder.
That's the kind of jar I have in my kitchen.
They still sell that. Yes, they do. That goes way back.
I don't have pencils in it, though. I have my spoons in it.
Ah. Reuse the doorknob and the plate.
Oh,
Pitcher.
that's pretty.
So we find uses for some of the things. Like that's a crock lid turned upside down. It makes an excellent turkey waterer. And some of the items are lawn ornaments now. There's our little groundhogs checking it out. And there's Johnny Chuck with his car. We put carrots in the car for him, so he checks out his car every day for carrots. Even Christmas ornaments. That's crystal from a chandelier or a lamp. We found quite a few of those, and we hang them on the tree. This, when I first found this, I didn't know what it was. It's a water chestnut, the invasive plant, and I think these are so pretty. I've made little ornaments, and I'm actually wearing one tonight as jewelry. I didn't know what this was when I first found it in the river. And what this is, actually, a dragonfly hatches out of that. So late spring, early summer, you can see these empty cases on some of the leaves in the river. We almost had a hitchhiker. I rescued him before we put the boat in the water. That looks like a lobster. It's actually a crayfish, just a very large crayfish.
Alive?
Yep, alive. Occasionally we find one living in a bottle. And when that happens, we just put the bottle back and we let him keep his home. Some more river wildlife.
Oh, my.
Bad luck for the damselflies. The turtles right there.
Yeah. Dinner.
Two snakes.
Yep. We don't see them very often. We see them more around Great Meadows area than we do anywhere else. These we see frequently, snapping turtles, and that's a huge one. Drew actually, he stepped on a rock one day and the rock started walking. Yes. And that's a leech bite. I now wear tall boots. Okay, this was one of our first finds in the river, and actually right here in Stowe. The jug says from Clifford and Fernald. So Clifford and Fernald were grocers in Boston, and they dated all the way back to 1840. So sometime from 1840 on would be when this jug was from. We have that jug on display here tonight. That was found at Gleasondale area. This is a rare Stowe milk bottle, W.A. Moore, Stowe, Mass. We were told by a collector that this is one of only two known, as far as we know. And here are two other rare Stowe milk bottles, George Brothers, and the George Brothers bottle, Stowe, has an E on the end, but it does say Stowe, Mass, but it has an E on the end for some reason. And the other one is Xander Brothers, Stowe, Mass.
So George Brothers, we're told, was the original owner of the Pilot Grove Farm, and Xander Brothers were up Harvard Road.
Chelmsford Spring Company. And they actually, the building was in Chelmsford up until fairly recently. The Chelmsford Spring Company became Chelmsford Ginger Ale and was bought out by Canada Dry.
That's another Gleasondale find.
Yep, about 1900 or so, that bottle. This one too, another Gleasondale find. This is Dr. Bull's cough syrup.
And that was a baby killer. Had a lot of opium in it that people would give to their babies to keep them from coughing or crying or whatever.
Opium, morphine, it was very common in those days. And this pipe bowl that was found actually just this past January. We had a mild day and went down to Gleasondale and I found this pipe bowl that's in the cabinet here. I emailed a photo of it over to Liverpool, England, just to confirm a date, and it's circa 1850. The oldest one we have here tonight is actually from the 1600s. I would have been really excited finding that, except when I found it, I had no idea how old it was until later. So the way you can tell the age, the pipe up top, the bowl is angled. It's a little different shape, it's smaller, and it's got this big flat heel on the base. And then the 1800s pipes, the bowl gets more upright and larger, and that little spur down the bottom is a lot narrower. And this is a Ponnold bottle. This would be pre-Civil War. And we know that by the scar on the base.
So the bottle was blown into a mold. They attached a rod to the bottom of the bottle, held it by that rod while they formed the lip with a separate tool. And then they broke the rod off at the bottom and left a scar on the bottom, called a pontal scar.
And that's what the scar looks like. And this is a whiskey flask, and we can tell sometimes what was in a bottle just from the shape. So that's one shape of a whiskey flask. Here's another shape, and this one still had the whiskey in it. My husband found that in the river with the whiskey still in it.
That's the original cork down the bottom of the bottle. It was standing upright in the mud in a riverbank. And you can drink it if you want, it smells like.
But we won't. Okay. Okay, medicine bottles tend to be rectangular usually. So here are some medicines. These were all found in Hudson in the Assabet. There's Dr. Kilmer's swamp root kidney, liver, and bladder cure. And then 2 Dr. Hartshorn bottles. These are Indian medicine bottles. Not that the Native Americans had much to do with this, it was more their image was sort of a marketing thing. The best one there is the one all the way on the right, the Winans Brothers Indian Cure for the Blood.
And the one on the far left is Indian vegetable cough syrup and blood purifier.
And this was one of Drew's best finds, actually, of this past summer. Warner's Safe Kidney and Liver Cure. There's a picture of a safe embossed on the bottle. Safe Cure.
The intent was to imply that it's safe for you to drink it, that it wouldn't harm you.
And speaking of contents of bottles and intentions, medicinal purposes, here's an old bourbon whiskey for medicinal purposes, it says right on the bottle. Drew found that one. So now we'll investigate some of the contents in some of these medicines. For the treatment of the alcohol habit, unfortunately it contained 26.5% alcohol. Not sure how that helped.
Them things don't change.
Okay, Paizo's cure. This was for consumption, which was tuberculosis. And at least 3 things jump out right away at me right there. The cannabis, the chloroform, and the morphine. Just, I can't even imagine that combination. And this was supposed to be safe for the whole family.
It made you feel better.
For a while. And this is Coca Mariani. And Coca Mariani was actually coca wine. It was a mix of wine and cocaine. And this was a highly advertised medicinal beverage, and some pretty important people of the time, including Queen Victoria, the Pope, and even Thomas Edison were said to use this product and endorse it. This is another one of those unfortunate baby killers. This is Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup.
Is it literally a baby killer?
It ended up being so because not only is there morphine in it, but the dosage for such tiny babies was not safe at all, at all. And unfortunately, a lot of babies went too quiet. Yeah. Nougatone. Here's another one, contained mercury, strychnine, and arsenic, among other things. And this was one of those traveling medicines. So the trouble is, the doctor, so-called doctor, sells his medicine and then leaves town. So. Faith Whitcomb's balsam. Faith Whitcomb was a Shaker, and she grew her herbs here in Harvard. And next to that we're getting into some different kinds of bottles now from the medicines. The one next to it is a beer or a soda bottle from New York. And then there's a Bunker Hill pickle jar and a bromocaffeine, which would have been for headaches. These are pepper sauce bottles.
Did you find it pretty?
Oh, all of these, yep. Yep. This is a poison bottle. It has an embossed pattern, this quilted pattern all over it. Not only is it the color cobalt, which in many cases they used cobalt for poison bottles, but this has that texture, so even if you couldn't read, you knew that whatever was in this bottle was poison.
If you grab it in the dark,
That too.
they didn't have electric lights like we do.
This also has that pattern. Even though it's a medicine, this was not a medicine that you would take internally, so it had that same type of pattern. And this is a little bit more recent compared to the other glass items. That's depression glass. And some of the old glass, even some of the marbles, used to have uranium in them. And if you use a black light, glass with uranium will glow. What I love to do when I find marbles, when I get them home right away, I like to check and see if they glow.
You want me to turn the lights up?
That would be good. So there's one in here is going to glow and the other one's not. Okay. Inkwells. These are a couple of exceptional color inkwells. We don't usually find them in these colors. That's a Stoneware Master ink. These are Stoneware beer bottles, both from Massachusetts. We have one here, and we have a large Stoneware beer up in the cabinet.
It's 1850s.
And this jug, what was interesting doing research on Patrick Gillen, I found out there was, in what would have been the police log in those days, a whole lot of liquor was seized from Patrick Gillen because he was illegally selling out of his basement. But looking ahead in more recent business directories, it looks as though he did go legal and he was officially a liquor dealer eventually.
Where was he located?
Milford, Mass. But that was found in Hudson, Mass, in the river. This was another one of Drew's great finds this summer. That's Rebecca at the Well teapot. There is not a chip or a crack. We're just missing the cap, that's it. It's kind of hard to date these because this was a popular design from about 1850 all the way up into the 1900s. That's just miscellaneous ironstone china, household items, metal stuff. And Drew knew what this was when he found it. I didn't know what it was. Does anybody know what that would have It's metal, it's brass. It says National on it.
It's the front of an old brass cash register drawer.
That's what it is. Yep.
No, okay.
Old sign.
What is the material of this sign?
That is a porcelain enameled, double-sided sign.
1920s.
Yep.
When Gulf was known as Gulf Refining Company.
That's probably our weirdest find. I wasn't sure when I first picked it up out of the river. I looked at it, but then I thought, I wonder if this is a prosthetic leg. And it turns out that it is. The foot was no longer on it because the foot would have been made out of wood, so that the foot did not survive in the river. But the rest of it, we actually donated to the Maynard Historical Society because that's where we found it in Maynard. And it's probably Civil War. Musket ball, that was found in Maynard. A couple of old eagle buttons. Carpenter's mallet, that's here tonight. So are the eagle buttons. Spittoons. I'm glad we don't use those anymore. Lamp parts. Apparently when electric lighting came into the homes, the oil lamps went into the river. We find lots of them. Buttons. These buttons are mostly glass, except for this one in the bottom left-hand corner, which is rubber. Most buttons now are plastic. Clay marbles. Aside from glass, we find clay marbles. This big blue one is called a Bennington boulder. It's a stoneware marble with a blue glaze. Clay
How
marble.
large is that big one, Cathy?
Oh, about like that.
Okay.
Maybe just a little bit larger. More marbles. The marble companies also made these little tea sets out of glass. So that would be either Acro Agate or Alley Agate made those. Toys, dolls, lots of doll pieces. This is my favorite. And since her arms and legs don't move, she's all one piece. She's called a frozen Charlotte. And I do have the story, the poem with me tonight, if you want to look at it after. They call these frozen Charlottes named after a poem written about an actual account, supposedly, of a girl who was all dressed up to go to the New Year's ball. She did not want to wear a blanket over her pretty dress, and she took the sleigh ride to the ball and she froze to death. So she is Frozen Charlotte. And the boy dolls are called Frozen Charlies. That's just a larger, more familiar doll head.
German 1890s, they had glass eyes in them that would open and close.
Those are all toy guns. And the cowboy on the horse is made out of rubber. And another thing kids used to play with back then that they don't anymore is lead. There were a lot of lead toys. And this is apparently a mold for lead zeppelins. That is, it actually says Zeppelin under the airship. Sports. Find just about every sport there is in the river, including bowling balls. And that's the caboose you saw us find earlier in the river. And the caboose ends this portion of the presentation. Now we have the game of what is it? So if you know what any of these items are, don't say anything right away. Let people try to figure out what they are. We'll just pass these around. So go on to that first picture. We'll just stay on that. Make sure the front row gets those over there. Yep. I'm actually not even sure what they're made out of. It's a very strange material. I know what they are, I just don't know what they're made of.
Did you know what it was when you found it?
No. Nope, it was one of those things that went in my pocket and I had to go home and research. But I'll show you in a minute how I actually figured it out. It's kind of silly. Okay, so when I got these home, I was looking at them and I thought, what is this? And I thought, oh, so does anybody have a guess? It's a parasol handle. Yes, parasol handles. This one is so tiny, I'm thinking must have been for a little girl because it's just so small. How about the other item? Do we have any guesses on the other item?
Is it a feel for a lamp?
No, but it did screw on something. Any guesses?
Any guesses? You got it.
Somebody got it? Good. It's a shifter knob. Glass shifter knob. Yep. Yes. Yep.
So much more elegant than what we're doing now.
Oh, my gosh.
Some of the old car shows we go to occasionally, I peek in the old trucks and I see these shifter knobs. Okay, what's next? Okay. Well, we know half of what this is. But the question is, what was it used for? Somebody knows. I heard it. Yeah, okay. Somebody guessed it. It's a bone dish. And the reason it's shaped like that is because it fit right alongside of your dinner plate so that you could just put the bones in the bone dish. So that's what that is. Okay. This one's a little heavy. That's a little heavy. And I'm going to let Drew explain what this one is. We'll see if anybody knows first.
Well, this part was still.
Yeah, okay.
Just think of it as a big hole.
Big giant hole, gotcha.
Okay, we'll pass this around. When I first found this, I thought it was a button.
We haven't seen it.
But I'm going to do a little demonstration. Now, I thought this was just a button, but I thought, with those notches around the edge, that's going to be awfully difficult to put through the buttonhole. It didn't seem practical. And I think I was actually researching something else when I found a picture of this, which If you spin it, wind it up.
Oh, what fun.
It's a buzzsaw toy. Those little notches help to make that buzzing sound. Can you see kids today playing with this for very long? I don't know. We'll hand this one around this way. And what's the next one? I'll start something in the back. Okay, and that one, I'll start at the back. You already know what this is, so. The one in front is kind of a tough one. Okay, so this one would have had something you would squeeze here. Something would collect in here. It's a breast pump. Did somebody think that over here?
Why that little, I thought of that, but I thought, well, why would it have that?
Well, but because 100+ years ago, that's what it was.
Yeah?
But the other one, this is actually a bird feeder. This would clip onto the cage, put the bird food in it. That's what that is. But this is a very old one. It has a patent date of October 27, 1875, so that's a very old one. Apparently this shape, this style did not catch on.
What's it made from?
It's glass, it's milk glass. Yeah. Okay, some of you might know what this is. This is not as old, some of you might know what this is, but I didn't know what it was when I found it.
Should I go to the next slide?
I guess so. Yeah, okay. The B&R Manufacturing Company. I think I heard somebody over there, somebody knows what it is, I think. Well, actually, the video that we showed, that was an afternoon out. That was just a few months ago. And those were the keepers we took home. It wasn't a whole...
How long does it take you to clean these things?
This one here, I think I heard somebody say. Do you know what this is? Yes, it's a dime bank. A dime bank. For collecting dimes, the slot here. There would have been a screw up the top there. Yeah.
And do the little holes allow them to come out again? Is that what the little holes were for?
I'm not sure about the holes,
Yeah, I thought.
but it does have the little increments on it telling you like how many dollars.
Oh, I see.
But it's very hard to
Oh, you
see.
can see.
It's very hard to see, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
And this, as a complete piece, anyone know what this would have been?
Is it paperweight?
It would have been a much larger object when it was whole.
Crucifix.
On a wall, just to put it on the wall as a decoration, a crucifix?
It was actually a candlestick. I have one at home. I have a complete one at home that I bought, but this would have been a candlestick holder, yes. So, okay, so I believe that's it for the What Is It game. And anybody who hasn't had a chance to come up here and look at the artifacts, look in the cabinet here. This is one item we didn't bring with us. We think we know what it is. It's a lid of some sort, but we noticed this rough area on the inside of the lid, which...
Is that the same as the first picture, just the beginning?
Right,
Yeah.
yep. Turn that over, and inside it has that rough area.
Is that a match holder?
Yes. That would be a lid to a match holder because you would strike the match on that
The
rough.
reason I know that is I have one of those, but it's got a running horse on it in glass.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And on the other side, on the underside, it's got that
Okay,
So I think it's a cover for a container that held it.
right. Yep.
Well, it's only
So my question to you, what's the oldest piece that you have? Do you know?
Yes.
Because I know you have so many.
This is my oldest piece.
And is that
It's a clay pipe,
the clay pipe?
and this is from the 1600s. 1660, yeah, around there.
So,
Yep.
and my question, sort of along that same line, what's your favorite piece? Not just the old.
That's too hard. That is really too hard because we have so many that are favorites for different reasons that it would be really tough. How about you?
Wine Brothers Indian Cure for the Blood.
Yep, that's a good one.
And there's a question.
Kathy,
Yep.
how do you clean the bottles? Once my father told me you put buckshot in it and shake it, it broke the whole bottle apart. So how do you clean
Well,
your bottles?
must have, I have heard of people doing that successfully, but
For aquarium gravel.
we have bottle brushes, and we also use that soapy Brillo on the end of, what are we using?
Old coat hanger.
An old coat hanger
because
or-
the metal is heavier gauge, it's stiffer. And I just use the pliers, make a little loop in the end of the coat hanger so it'll hold the Brillo, wrap it around. Get it down in there with some soapy water.
So of course, this begs the question, how many bottles do you have? You
We,
can't get rid of them if they all have a story that's gonna be really hard.
yeah, I know. We have just so many.
What's the most valuable thing you found?
You think probably,
Wine
yeah, probably that Indian Cure for the Blood, probably.
What?
The Indian Cure for the Blood that we show.
The Indian Cure for the Blood bottle, Wine Ann's Indian Cure for the Blood. It's a rare one, and what is
500.
what does it say? Cures, colds, cures. It says on both sides of the bottle. It says cures something.
What makes them valuable? Because there were just a few that manufactured them, or they?
Well, people collect different kinds of bottles. Some people just collect inks, some people collect cure bottles. We collect a lot of everything. But to the cure collectors, it's a rare one.
Because there just weren't a lot of them? or
There weren't a lot of them, no, they were only made for a few years.
Well, that and there's a picture of an Indian embossed on the front,
Yeah,
which is
people collect Indian.
very desirable, and it says cure on both sides. There are people who collect cures, and it's a very large bottle, so it's got a lot going for it, so that's why that's, and there's an interesting story about that in the book, too, because Drew almost found one. He found one, went to pick it up, thought it was whole, and the bottom was broken out of it, and he was so disappointed. And I said, well, maybe we'll find another one. You know, it's a Worcester bottle. The very next weekend, we went out. We searched all afternoon. Drew was putting the boat back on the car, and I like to look around a little bit. I'm right up to the last minute looking for things. And just before it was time to go home, I stepped on something I thought was a brick, and it was actually a big rectangular medicine bottle, and it was the Wine Ann's Indian Cure for the Blood. We never found as much as a piece of one since then. So that was really, really something, the way it happened.
As an ex-canoeist who never saw anything when she was out, I have to ask you, what was the first moment when you were out in the river or whatever? When did you first begin to collect and first make that discovery and design? There's a lot of stuff here. How old were you?
Well, I started in Staten Island, actually, under the Goethals Bridge.
Under the what bridge?
The Goethals, there are three
Goethals
bridges that
Bridge.
connect Staten Island to New
I
Jersey.
see. Okay.
And the Goethals, it goes to Elizabeth, New Jersey, from Staten
Okay.
Island. And there are some wetlands behind there that you can go in at high tide. And I went kayaking back there and I found a few.
So that sort of inspired you to keep looking and keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you looking for them then, or was that just?
Yeah, I was looking for them then. There's a train bridge that parallels the Goethals Bridge. And there used to be railroad cars that dumped off the side of the hill. The railroad was elevated I used to go digging there next to the railroad, and taking the kayak out to get to places that I couldn't get. You know, the kayak will allow you access to places that are inaccessible otherwise.
So you've been treasure hunting, not necessarily in the water.
I've been digging bottles since I was 10. Yeah.
And I was digging bottles since I was 15, and we met at an antique bottle show many years later.
Have you been injured going through the river?
Almost, no. I stepped on a nail once, but I had boots.
I was injured trying to get into the river.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that story's in the book too, yeah. I ended up on crutches for 5 months trying to find a shortcut into the river. No shortcuts.
No cut ankles or feet or anything like that?
No, the boots stopped the nail. So we wear like diving boots, the neoprene with a medium density rubber sole.
Yeah.
Stop. A lot of broken glass too, of course.
Do the leeches, you do get leeches on you if you don't wear those boots.
Yeah, they like me for some reason,
They
so.
like the mud. In some places we go, it's sandy, some places it's rocky, and some places it's muddy. And you can sink in mud, almost up to your knee.
Yeah, the best way is just to stay in the boat and use the grabber tool. Look for things along the edge of the river. It gets a little bit dangerous when you start getting out of the boat and trying to walk in the current. Sometimes the riverbank looks like it's solid ground, and then you step out and you go right down, so.
There's not much current in the Assabet really. The wind could blow you upstream, actually. Very slow flow.
So what changes, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what changes have you seen in the river over the years? Have you, in maybe just the
It's a lot
Assabet?
cleaner.
A lot cleaner.
It's a lot cleaner.
Within a matter of what, 20 years or so, do you think, or?
14 we've been.
14 years, yeah. Now cleaner in the physical sense, but also clearer as well, right? There are improvements because of the changes we've made, the laws and so forth. Is that correct? Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see it.
No.
You have to sample it and have it chemically analyzed for phosphates and all that good stuff.
Yes, the organization for the Assabet Rivers, that's part of what they do. They do different analysis. They do that.
Quite a
so.
bit of improvement, which is heartening.
Yeah, and if you see cloudy water, it doesn't mean it's polluted. After a heavy rain, it'll get silty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of runoff from the
Yeah.
streets.
Well, if we're through with questions, like I say, if you haven't had a chance to look in the cabinets here and on the table, and we have books for sale. Anybody you know who likes history or artifacts. We also have little stories in here, like I said, our little adventures along the way. So it's artifacts, but it's also our personal story as well.
Feel free to hang around.
We will sign the books too, author signed, so you have a chance to get them author signed.
I like your title.
Yes.
Okay.
How much are they?
30.